Dr. Klein from Rimrock Wellness Center. We're going to talk about foundation training. Foundation training can be really confusing. You don't know really where to start sometimes. And I've been doing this for 4 years, so I've added lots of little pieces. So I'm going to give you just one piece today and where to start with. It all revolves around the foundation, which is our hips. A lot of us are in this position because we're driving our head back, and that really compresses the spine. And the hips don't engage there. So one way to actually engage the hips is actually to start from your feet. And this ties back into what we were talking about with foundation training. With plantar fasciitis, where that fascia is just overstretched because we're really not using the foot as we should be. When the foot isn't activated, we're not activating the hip as well. So I'm just going to show you how I do that. A little barefoot here. Let me mark down for you just the 3 points of contact. The first one is your heel. So when you're striking with your normal gait, so you're contacting with the heel. And then on the ball of the foot is where the other 2 points are. So here's your metatarsal head. And here's the first metatarsal right there. So those 2 points up top, those create the transverse arch, which is when we squeeze, does that. You can see that kind of spreads the toes. So that's that gripping that we should have. So in our society, we have comforts such as shoes, and we have flat surfaces. But with comforts come curses, and one of those curses is weakness. So the foot is weak, and with the heel striking, the hip flexor gets weak because it's not needed to guide the strike. It's not needed to work, so it becomes weak. And that's where we see so many hips coming forward, which in turn also flattens the arch too. So there's a lot going on with the foot. That's why we start here as the first step to help create a strong foundation. So transverse arch is one of the 3 arches. So that's what's squeezing there. And we're also squeezing here too. So from the heel down. So all 3 of those points are kind of converging on each other. We're not bunching the foot like this with our hand. We're not doing that. We're doing this. So if you watched any foundation training videos, he'll make a spear of tension. So it's a widening and then it's a pressure. Because here I can only squeeze so much without bunching. So you should never feel like you should be able to flatten one side of the foot down. Most of us, we tend to be on the outside of the foot, so we're losing that natural lateral arch that we should have. And orthotics are great, and we have Mojo Feet orthotics at our office. And even he says that the whole idea is to eventually get you away from orthotics because it is support. It's like lumbar support. Over time it shows the more we use lumbar support, actually the more degeneration and problems we'll have develop in the lumbar spine because the muscles can quit. They can take the day off because there's something else doing their job. And that's what we're dealing with the feet. So think about 10, 20 years throughout your life, however old you are, of not being able to use your feet right, or even ever learning. In our culture now, kids are just never getting out, getting barefoot, getting to grab the ground anymore. So they're never really set up how to move naturally or move right, even from the beginning. So those are our 3 points of contact. Heel, first, pinky toe, ball of the foot, and here. And you'll notice in a lot of my videos, I'm also getting the toes down. I'm getting the ball down too, but also then the toes, grabbing like that. So the toes are in contact with the ground, just gripping. And you notice that with a lot of our stances, that will just happen naturally the way we're placing our weight more into the heel. That'll help our foot naturally grab as it should. We also get a lot of restriction. And what I want you to feel, and get this foot out of the way. And as a chiropractor, always working on feet, here, whether we have the retinaculum, but also a lot of tendons coming in, is always very crunchy, just jammed down. So we're always trying to pull it, open it up. What you should feel is when you're doing this exercise, the opening of that joint. You'll feel the same thing with the spear of tension. These 2 things, end of your extremities, mirror each other. So when we're pressing here, or squeezing, you feel that wrist joint open up. Same thing's happening there in the ankle as you're pressing off the ground. Not only you're lifting, placing your hips in the socket, lifting your whole spine up, but you're also opening this ankle joint up. And that's really going to help you in the long run to absorb the shock from the ground. Use the arch to absorb the shock of the ground. Because if your foot is absorbing the shock, that's going to save your knees and your hips. Now our shoes and the cushion absorb that shock, but it's still getting transferred. So we want the foot to take it, or it should, because if muscles are taking shock, they get stronger over time. If the joints are taking the shock, they degenerate, they harden, they stiffen, they get inflamed, they get angry, because that's not their job. This is the muscle's job to absorb the shock, not the joint tissue. So most of us, we have orthotics or whatever that push us one way or the other, but you can see that's mainly the knee that's doing a lot of that work. So we're creating an inside arch, but also an outside arch at the same time. And that's what really uses all those muscles. And you can see, even just me grabbing, trying to get my big toe down, the ball of the big toe, and then trying to put the pinky down, keeping my weight back in my heel, really forces my hips to work and really puts my spine in a great place. Even though it's just one piece, it does about 70% of what we need to do to have great posture. So if you're trying this position when you're walking, where your heel striking and then grabbing with that big toe and then pushing off with those 3 points of contact, the big toe, the pinky, and then the heel, that can really help strengthen your foot. And that's gonna help prevent plantar fasciitis, not just ankle issues, but it's gonna help activate the hip. So let's bring it up here. We can see the hip now. Just watch, see where I'm back here, where my hips are in front of my shoulders. So I engage my feet and really tighten. It uses my inner thighs a lot and pulls my hips into the socket where they should be. And that's really what we want when we're doing foundation training. That's a great place to start. So that's kind of step number one, is teaching those feet how to work. It brings us out of this position into that hip hinging position, and it makes the rest of foundation really go well, because you can see the feet really working here as well. They're always gripping, they're always grabbing. Just like we create the sphere of tension with our hands, the feet are mirroring that. And that's really gonna help your hips engage, allow your spine to decompress and get you out of pain.